Magic in the Morning with Tom Cochran's Washed Away. Big hit in the 90s. We're at 8:35, and we're the 18th day of November, getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving. We also mentioned a little while ago that it being a Tuesday, we were going to have our friend Mike Barrett in for a weekly installment of Good Policies with Barrett Insurance. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning to you. How are you?
I am well, yes. Tom Cochran, who you just heard there, you said life is a highway guy?
That's honestly what I know him as, yeah. Life is a highway.
It was huge. I mean, that song was huge.
It was.
Who was it? Rascal Flatts covered that for
Cars.
Yeah, for the Cars soundtrack.
Yeah.
But he was also the lead singer of the Canadian band Red Rider.
Hey.
Lunatic Fringe.
That was a great song. I did not know that. That's cool. I learned something new today.
Yes, you did.
I try to learn something new every day.
Well, we learn something new every time we get together and talk good policies, because this morning, as always, Mike, what do you want to talk about? And you said assuming. So...
And then you go, no, what do you want to talk about? Like, I'm not going to assume what we're going to talk about. But today we're going to talk about assuming, assumptions in the insurance world. Does that sound like a fun conversation to have?
Well, it does, because you know the old saying, don't assume because it...
Makes something out of you and me.
Yes.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's not do that.
What are some common assumptions?
You know, interestingly enough, we'll start with the homeowners first. You know, a lot of people may decide, I'm going to get chickens and start selling eggs and just do it. Not covered. If somebody claims that they got salmonella or some kind of a sickness as a result of your eggs and try to sue you, you don't have coverage. Whereas if you didn't assume and maybe check to see if it was something you should or could do, you could probably have coverage, maybe even just by a small endorsement on your policy that was, pennies on the dollar by comparison of not having it. Another one, renting out part of your home. So let's say you have an extra bedroom. You got a big old house. I'm going to rent out part of my home. I'm just going to rent it out. Doesn't matter. Just have some occupancy. Well, you can have some rumors and borders by automatic default with many companies, but that's not something I recommend assuming on, right? It's a quick phone call. It's a quick check, and hey, I'm thinking about doing X, and you can find out whether you're covered or whether you should consider making a slight change, even if it's on your existing policy. Making a slight change. I'm going to short-term rent my house when I'm not in town. That's a fun one. They can deny a whole claim on that. Airbnb and Vrbo, which I always thought was VRBO, but it's Vrbo. There are some exposures there that are not considered by acceptance of the contract. And so you really need to have a conversation. The good news is there's plenty of ways to cover that. Just don't assume that you have that coverage. You probably don't.
Well, we also know from reading in the news over the past few years here that not only do you need to check with your insurance company, but especially when it comes to the Airbnb and such, you got to check with your local governing bodies.
Yeah, a lot of the governing bodies. I remember when I was a selectman in Waterford, they put some guidance and requirements in force for Airbnb, or tried to. I can't remember if we put it forward or not now at this time. But anyway, so there's a lot going on there. I'm going to put a pool in. All right, well, that's great. Let's talk about it. Let's make sure that you're being considered for a pool. I'm going to get a dog. Well, let's talk about the type of dog you're going to get. So many of these little things, too, that come up all the time. But, if you're getting livestock, over 4 head of livestock with most companies, not allowed. But did you know that if you have livestock, some of the companies probably have some coverage that can protect you with liability? Very good to know. On the auto insurance side, so many people go, I need to earn some extra money. I'm going to do Uber or Lyft. Not covered by most every carrier. The good news is that we've picked up a few carriers that actually allow that. So we can actually specifically put an endorsement on your auto insurance that says you are driving for Uber or Lyft, or at least a short, like a taxi cab type of service for them. And if you're with Uber or Lyft, because of the way the contract reads, when you have somebody in your car, they cover it. So there's some options there.
Now, don't you also have to have? And I'm not in the industry like you are, but don't you also have to have like a limousine or a taxi driver endorsement, all that kind of stuff?
No.
Really?
No. Yeah. With Uber, it's pretty wide open. So, everybody drives to some degree. We're seeing a lot of people doing the food delivery or the grocery delivery. That's not covered either. But again, there are some companies out there, including some that we have, that say, yeah, we can do that. No problem. So it's just a simple phone call. And yes, it may cost a little more money. And that's the downside of what I do, is the more you talk, the more it costs, right? That's what they always say. Not always the case. But, you want to make sure that if you're driving and you are doing food delivery and get in an accident and horrifically injure or kill a third party, that your insurance company has no leg to stand on to decline the claim. You know, there's a color in our industry that we try to avoid like the plague, and it's called gray. If you ever hear us say that falls in a gray area, it requires a little more due diligence, and there's a lot of gray out there. So truly a good idea just to have the conversation. You know, we've had people start businesses get non-renewed by their previous homeowner carrier, whoever it may be, and go, I can't believe they're non-renewing me. I'm only doing X. Well, that's a home business that brings foot traffic and obviously was a concern for that carrier. You didn't check with them first to see if they could even accept it. You would have found out they didn't. And then you wouldn't have been mad at them because the non-renewal was truly because it's just not something they can write. But here's a company that will allow it, and here it is. So it's available. But just the worst thing to find out how good your insurance is, Jeff, is when a loss occurs. And that is the absolute truth. You know, you want to make sure that you have proper protection.
You know, the chicken thing with the eggs and talk about renting out a room. I mean, I've seen pop up on Facebook Marketplace and such. Somebody may have a two-car garage with a loft apartment above it, and they've decided that they wanted to rent that out as an apartment.
Totally cool, but you know, and you're not asking for permission, right? Some people go, "Don't make me ask for permission to do what I want to do." No, it's not asking for permission. You have the absolute authority and right to do whatever you want to do. It is indeed your property, but you are asking an insurance company to provide coverage if something happens. So yes, while you're doing things that you want to do, you may be negating coverage because of exclusions or limitations that are on the policy. So much better to know about that ahead of time.
Well, you know, in that last example there, and we do got to wrap it up here soon, but that last example where, say, you are renting out the upstairs of your nice garage, there are requirements for fire safety, like you can't have wooden steps. You know, you also got to make sure that whatever structure is there, it's safe during especially the wintertime or any time. And so all of these things are things that are brought up in that conversation.
There are things to consider, you know, handrails on stairs, the height of those handrails, the spacing between the balusters, the type of heat. You know, you want to make sure that, you know, companies want to make sure it's a safe place to be before they're willing to say, yep, you're covered. You know, so it's just a small consideration. Again, it's not asking for permission. It's asking for coverage. Look at it that way.
That's right. The stupidest question is the one you never ask.
Indeed.
And don't assume.
No, because you know what it does. It makes me look bad.
It makes everybody look bad. Give them your contact.
Sure, you can give us a call. Barrett Insurance Agency at 748-5224. You can find us located on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury. Online, thebarrettagency.com. Google, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Just look for Barrett Insurance Agency.
And, of course, tune in Tuesdays at 8:35.
Absolutely.
All right. We've got one more meeting together before Thanksgiving.
I know. We'll see you next week. As I'll be fasting next week as I gear up for the big Thursday. Get me some pumpkin pie.
The fall asleep on the couch day.
No, that's every day, actually. My wife will tell you that.
All right, we're headed up to our hometown minute. Always great to have a chat with Mike Barrett. Right now, it's music from Duran Duran.